All right, here we are for part 2, man. We're here on the water here in Ossining, New York. What's this body of water called?
It's called Shattamuc Marina, and we're on Launch 5, the Henry Wallburger.
Launch 5 is the boat that we're on today.
Yes.
This is great, man.
The captain is Greg Porteus.
Now, the name of this boat is...
Henry Wallburger.
Henry Wallburger. And Henry Wallburger?
Yes.
He was a police officer that was killed in the line of duty.
That's right. 9th Precinct.
And the launches are named after... all of them. They're all named after
cops, yes.
To memorialize police officers who lost their lives in the line of duty. Our guest today, and we had a phenomenal first hour.
He's great. I knew it. You know, something is funny.
Michael Carew.
I never met him ever. This is the first day I met him. But, you know, some cops... you have an immediate camaraderie, right?
Yeah.
And right away you start busting each other's balls.
Yeah,
and,
that's good.
You know, he took a lot of shit in the first episode. He's going to take more in the second episode.
I just wait till I start dishing it out. I took it easy on you with your Speedo, you know? And I got to say, you got a lot because not knowing me and not knowing the repercussion I give back to you, you
got to realize we're the hosts of this show.
We got to take advantage of it. We take advantage in the beginning before you get your footing.
You just might get bumped, pal.
He wants on this show.
Yeah.
So we're on the Launch 5, and we're out here in Ossining. We have Mike Carew with us. And before the person who owns this boat is a retired state trooper, right?
Yes. Greg Porteus, who's the cousin of the infamous Detective Pat. So this family is a police family.
Yeah, they hooked us up with this boat.
Greg gave me a call.
And this was your idea, so this was
he gave me a call a couple of weeks ago. He was, how would you like to shoot an episode on the launch? I said, we'd love to. I thought he was going to be driving us around and I said, we probably wouldn't be able to hear. Mm-hmm. So we are here sitting in the dock at
Before he left, Greg started telling us a couple of stories about actually rescues that happened out here. And one of them, were you involved in the one that he was telling us about?
I wasn't involved in that one, but there was a lot of similar ones like that,
But you did propel from helicopters, right? Did you?
We used to jump out.
Did it just push you out?
We used to jump from 30 feet.
To just push you right out, right?
Yeah, he was holding on saying, I'm not going. I'm not going.
That was
his sergeant had to kick him out.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
But you got the tank on your back when you're jumping out from 30 feet.
Full gear, mask, fins, everything.
And you got to hold on to it like that? So it doesn't...
No, you would... what you did was you would, with one hand, you'd lock your chin. And with the other hand, you'd lock your arm. So you'd do like a sailor jump, locking your head and neck, so you didn't have like a whip
tongue
or pull your arms out. Wow.
Mm-hmm. I figure you hold your balls.
That would be good too, But that would only be if you had another arm or an octopus.
That happened to me when I was at that place in the Bahamas.
Somebody held your balls?
Slide. No, I should have held my balls. I went down that real high slide, and they don't tell you cross your legs.
Yeah.
I was singing soprano for a few days after I went on that slide. It's crazy, man.
So tell us about some of these rescues, because the rescues are fascinating because there's always problems with boats. People. They're falling off their boats. They're crashing their boats.
Yeah. So, one that Greg brings up about all the time was back in, I think it was like 85 or so. There was we got a call Staten Island again. Staten Island was big for incidents and accidents, and so
they know how to use the water. Huh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, actually, they don't know how to use the water, so that might be more like it. But a father took his daughter out for a drive, 3-year-old daughter, and they used to drive down by the pier and look at the Manhattan skyline. Well, they ripped the pier down and they never put a barrier up. And so it's at night and it had a slight inclination to go up on where the pier was. So his headlights was shining up, and he couldn't see.
He couldn't see.
Yeah, he couldn't. There was nothing to reflect off of, and he drove right into the water. Him and his 3-year-old daughter. So we get the call. Confirmed occupied car in the water. We shoot across from Brooklyn. I'm suiting up on the way over. As soon as we get there, the engines haven't even stopped yet, and I go right in the water. Could actually see like lights, reflection of the lights, tail lights.
You mentioned something earlier about the line, though. So when you say you go right in the water, are you setting up the line? Are you going to use the line?
This time I didn't even, there was no setting up the line.
Because there was no time for that, right?
There was no time for that. And there was you set up the line because you're doing it with the search pattern. You're going to get lost or whatever. But I could actually see the car. And I think they might even had something, down almost attached to the car also at the time. I don't remember. But I go down and... I hit the driver's side door, and the window's open a little bit, and I try reaching in, and I can't feel anything. The door's jammed. I swim over to the other side, and I try opening that door, and that door is jammed, locked, or whatever it is. So I come back over to the driver's side where the window's open a little bit, and I'm thinking, maybe I'll take my tank off, I'll go in or whatever, and the window wasn't open as much as I thought it was. Right. So, but I could see it was like kind of loose, it was open, but I couldn't open it, and I just says,
if you had one of those tools that break the window, would that work underwater?
What does work is the center punches, and
that's what I meant.
It does shatter some of the windows, and then also on a hard frame door, if the window's closed, you put you wedge the knife in between the window and the door jamb and the frame, and just pry it a little bit. It shatters it too, but it didn't do it with those other windows that had no frame. Right. That didn't work. But what I did do is I just grabbed the door handle and put my feet up against the car, and I forced the door open. And what it was, the door was up against a piling underwater, and I wound up, luckily getting the door open, going in, swimming in, getting the girl, pulling her out.
How much time had expired by the time you dove and the time the car went into the water?
It's probably over an hour. Oof. Originally, they were talking like 40 minutes or so, but when we we went back and looked at the time frame and everything, it was probably close to an hour, maybe more.
There's no way someone could still be alive. Right?
Well, she wasn't. She was expired. People because they wound up bringing her back to life. Yeah. So I pulled her out of the car and I handed her up to emergency service, EMS, and EMS revived her right there and took her to the hospital. She lived for several months on her own, but there was other complications that must have set in.
Because your brain doesn't get oxygen, right?
Well, actually, your brain is getting oxygen. It's called the mammalian diving reflex, cold water. All right, it was April, and the water temperature was probably still in the 40s, so it was cold water. And what it is, mammalian diving reflex is when you splash cold water on you. All right, your brain that sends a signal to your brain, slow down, and use less oxygen or whatever. Everything, all your organs slow down. Right. And being that her organs had stopped. All right, they were surviving, her brain and her organs were surviving off the oxygen left in her bloodstream. They actually feed off the oxygen. So, and that's, And
how about the father?
The father got out. He was unable to get back in the car, and I understand. He said he attempted several times and he couldn't get in. And again, even myself on Scuba with a tank and everything, I wasn't able to get in on him first attempt. Went over to the other side, couldn't get in, came back again, and it took a bit of strength.
So he was able to swim out of the car.
He was able to get out of the car. Now, when he opened the door, all right, as they were sinking, and he opened the door again, water pressure starting to push it in. Right. He just said he was able to manage to get himself out, but when he tried to pull the door back open again, he couldn't. And that's the water. Combination of water. If water was still rushing in, it was closing the door.
Right. They show you those on TV when a car submerges. And they show you that to open the door, the water has to be totally over your head. And then you can open the door because the pressure on the outside equals the pressure on the inside.
Correct.
And you can open the door. But how scary is that for a human being to have the water go over your head. And, oh no! Now I'll open the door. You know.
Exactly. It's
terrifying.
it's not easy, and even like doing a dunk tank and stuff like that. You know, a lot of pilots have to train in a dunk tank. You know, they put you in this seat and they put you. You go shooting into a pool and it flips you upside down, and then you got to get out. You know.
Get out. That's pretty scary.
Yeah. And especially with no mask on or anything else, it's not.
I had that scene in Officer and a Gentleman. I remember that with Richard Gere.
Yeah,
man, he was hot. Did I just say that?
He's an actor.
No, but they did that. They had that scene where they flipped him over.
Yeah,
right.
Or no, actually, it might have been Top Gun.
Top Gun.
They flipped him over in the water. One of the two movies.
Probably.
And then you're in.
Probably the other one. I think I just recently saw Top Gun, and I don't think
the new one.
Yeah, or maybe not the new one.
Isn't there a new one coming out?
with Tom Cruise? Yeah.
Tom Cruise.
I think they just had a new one.
Well, how about even the Navy SEAL training? How they have their hands tied behind their back and their feet tied together, and they have to survive for I don't know how long it is.
Right.
And they do that by sinking to the bottom and kicking themselves up and taking a deep breath and repeating that.
Right.
That's sick.
Yeah.
Right?
I did that, but not in water.
Then a bottle of scotch. But how long do they have to survive doing that?
Oh, I don't know how many hours they have that, but
that's terrifying. Right?
It's I
mean, without your arms and your legs to kick and do it, you can't swim. You know.
Well, again, after a while, you actually got to start to develop a rhythm. You know, and
I guess.
And once, like I said, once you calm down and you start getting in, you get a rhythm down.
I think
or whatever,
SEALs really learn what it's like to almost drown.
I would.
Have you ever had an experience like that?
I haven't. Well. I got another time. I got fishing line monofilament stuck around my fin. I was only in about 5 feet of water. I tell people when I started, I go, I almost drowned in 5 feet of water. So just
So what happened? You got fishing line trapped on your fin.
Yeah, I was doing something at a marina next to where a fishing boat pulls out, and I had to change a shackle or chain on something or whatever, and. I had this tank. I just, instead of switching all over, it was like maybe about 700-800 pounds of pressure. And I said, just, 5.5 feet of water. I could snorkel this if I wanted to, but I'm just going to throw the tank. So, but I had a full tank on a dock with me and everything, and I just jumped in. I jumped in without my knife attached. So I'm down here. I'm changing, and because I guess it was rusty or it gave me a little bit of a harder time, so I went through the air. And now I'm starting to feel like, I'm drawing hard. And I'm like, I just got a few more seconds. I could do this, And I'm like, if I have to, I'll just pop up, grab a breath of air, and then come back down and finish the job. Well, I get the shot. I get it done. And I go to pop up. And I'm not going up. And there's fishing line stuck around my fin.
Oof.
And I'm right next to the dock, but the dock is high enough I can't reach up and grab the side of the dock, pull myself up. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at the tank on the dock, and I'm sucking on the tank. I'm like, feel the inside of the tank wants to like crush because I'm trying to draw every little bit out, and I'm like getting out of breath. And the same thing, I'm sitting there going, oh, this is going to look stupid. Professional diver drowns in 5 feet of water. Look at this idiot. His full tank right there and his knife on the dock. Tangled on a small piece of monofilament. If you were out fishing and you got your line caught and didn't want it to break, it would break in a second.
Yeah.
But when you want them to break, it feels like you could pull them, 50 yards and they're not breaking. And that's what I had is, I got a piece of line. I mean, it's not breaking. And
you couldn't just pop your fin off.
It was like I said. It's I'm already out of breath. I need that air.
Yeah.
I got to get
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is where couple things made the difference of saying, just like you said, how can I get to the dock if I could jump? All right, and that's what I did. I says, okay. I went back down. I pushed myself down into a crouch position and pushed like hell off the bottom, and I was able to grab the edge of the dock and hold on.
Wow.
So it was just like I had the tip of my fingers on there, and I just held on for a second. I pushed the side of the regulator, out of the side of my mouth with my tongue, and I took a couple of breaths, and I just hung there till I caught my breath, and everything got good. I'm like, I'm not going to do anything until I got got a little bit more strength.
Strength, yeah.
See, but you're an experienced diver, and you did a couple of things that you teach diving, right?
I
now?
teach diving.
You would probably tell people, don't ever do that. Always have your knife. Always, right?
Yeah.
And but like maybe we all
Well,
get
that
lackadaisical.
that
And
was, you know,
cops
that was,
on patrol.
Yeah.
You get lackadaisical
Right,
sometimes. You do 100 car stops, maybe you
Right.
get a little lackadaisical.
You get complacent, you get
Yeah.
caught. I tell the students that. And like I said, that was that was in the in the early '80s that it happened to me.
Right.
And again, because you're in your mind, I could snorkel this. I could, used to going down like 40 feet, hanging out, grab lobster, shoot a fish, this, that, the other thing, come up. So there's, 5.5 feet of waters, but, didn't plan on it. And I tell people, they go, how come this experience, with all this experience, how did that happen? I go, got complacent. You get complacent, you
Just
get
like
caught.
there's no routine car stop.
No routine
There's
car
no
stop.
routine dive either.
No. And again,
Sure.
it's, when you get
All
complacent.
of our police students out there, no routine car stop, no routine dive. I
Yeah.
just thought I'd add that little teaching moment in this.
Yeah.
Right, Mike?
Absolutely, and even the car stops. You learn even on the outside. Like you said, you get complacent, and luckily you don't get caught. Your instincts and reactions kicked in. Bailed you out of a problem. Something that could have been a problem.
You can learn you learn the hard way.
Right, you learn the hard way, and you can also use that on the outside, in the civilian side.
Thing
too.
is, you could have paid with
How
your
long does
life.
it take somebody to get proficient at scuba diving, feel comfortable?
Some people could take a long time. Some people never get comfortable, but somebody that's comfortable in the water. As far as getting a certification, getting through the training, it's probably about you're gonna say maybe 12 to 15 hours of book work, knowledge work, academics.
So the 3-hour cruise
right.
in the Bahamas, I mean, not in the Bahamas, but let's say in Costa Rica right now, that's not not good enough?
That is what they
Cayman
call a
Islands.
resort course. It's enough to get you killed, But
And
some
the other
people-
thing is, who's teaching you? You don't know who the hell's teaching you.
Again,
Right?
it's all about what your comfort level is, and some people get down to they take this little resort course. They get in the water and now they're down 30 feet, and the instructor gets a little far from them a little bit, and all of a sudden it goes through their mind like, oh shit, I don't really know what I'm doing. What if this? And they're breathing. Maybe they're feeling a little anxiety now, and the breathing rate. Now they're starting to feel like. I gotta actually pull a little bit to get some air. Is this normal? Then they start guessing. Is this normal? Is this what I'm supposed to feel? Well, that little course didn't give you enough time to tell you what you really feel and what.
How deep do you have to be before you can get what's known as the bends?
What is the bends?
The bends is a buildup of nitrogen in your body, over an excessive amount of nitrogen in your body. The air we breathe is 21% oxygen, 79% nitrogen. Your body uses oxygen, doesn't use nitrogen, just brings it in, it's carrier. So the more time you spend on the water, each breath you take, you're bringing in nitrogen, you're building up nitrogen. So to answer that question, anything 35 feet and shallow, where you go on what we call a 35-foot dive table. 35-foot dive table, you have 205 minutes of time you can spend underwater without having to do decompression. All right, so
when you come up, and you say you've been under an hour, you have to come up in increments, right?
you have to come up with 1 foot per second, right? And they have, if you've gone into what we call you're doing a non-decompression dive, you didn't build up an excessive amount of nitrogen. So coming up at a regular normal ascent at 1 foot per second, you do a 15-foot stop for 3 minutes just to let that excess nitrogen get out, a little bit more nitrogen get out of you. All right,
So before you're out of the water, you're coming up.
You're coming
You
up.
have to stop somewhere on the way up and stay there for 3 minutes?
Right. It's called a safety stop. If you're doing if you're in a no
And you're just
decompression,
breathing normally at that
just breathing
place, just
normal.
waiting
Right.
for this
Right.
nitrogen to
Right.
get out of you.
Now that's the difference between a decompression dive and a non-decompression dive is the safety stop is recommended, not required. Where when you bring in too much nitrogen in your body, it's required. You're going to get bent,
So
but
let's
again,
just say that happens. Let's say you come up and you didn't decompressurize. What
and you get
happens to
bent.
you?
Okay, so the nitrogen forms bubbles in your bloodstream. All right, and it can cause problems from anywhere from a skin rash to a bubble that traps.
It could kill you, right?
Yeah, exactly. It could kill you. Yeah, depending on how
deep you were and how long.
how much nitrogen, how fish came up, and
then there's a thing called the decompression chamber. They could put you in if they know that's what happened to you.
right. Yep, and they recompress you and put you on oxygen to dilute the nitrogen.
Okay. See, all of us non-divers, we don't know this stuff.
I know nothing about it.
Now,
man.
Mike, you own a dive shop on City Island, right?
Yes.
You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, it's
I'll come by and visit you. I just went to eat there the other day.
Yeah, okay. It's Captain Mike's Diving in City Island. I have the shop almost 30 years now.
So you take people out?
We take people out. We do the dive training.
Wow.
Give them training anywhere from.
Maybe I'll come.
Who
Maybe
to
I'll
be
do it.
who to be better trained by an
yeah, I mean, if I was
NYPD
gonna trust
scuba
somebody,
diver?
I'd
It's
trust you.
unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
It's like being taught how to fly by Sully Sullenberger.
I know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It really is. It's
I'm not.
unbelievable.
Listen, I'm not a risk taker. I'll be honest with you. I didn't make it this far. I'm
5
52
feet
years
of
old.
water.
I got a kiddie
52
pool.
years old. I
got a
didn't
kiddie
make
pool.
it this far by being a risk taker.
Yeah,
He wants 5 feet of water.
We can put you in his speedo.
And
He wants to bring his knife into 5 feet of water in case he runs into some
I
bloods
don't know
and
how I'm
crips
gonna
under
die.
there, you know?
I tell you, I don't know how I'm gonna die, but I know 100 ways I'm not gonna die.
Yeah, exactly. People always ask me, is that knife, to protect you from a shark? And it's like, no.
How big a fish do you see down there?
Oh, I've actually gone diving with great whites,
Wow.
But the knife is, they ask you, is the knife protect us, come across a shark, and it's like, no. You stab your buddy and swim like hell. You don't have to be the fastest, you just can't be the slowest swimmer. Again, here we go with that copy again.
That's right. Yeah. That's why people listen to us. You know?
But over here in the where you were working, did you see any big fish down there? No. Actually, Are there any fish down there?
yeah, and actually, one time I was when you were talking over by Astoria Park in Hallett's Cove there. We were doing a dive. We were looking for a gun. It was like in March, April, something like that. And the first set of depth we got to was about 25 feet. And for some reason, there was visibility that day. It had to be like 10 foot of visibility. And as soon as I dropped down, there had to be like a 4-pound flounder. I was like a huge flounder. I'm like, wow, this is like what they talked about Quincy Mass flounders years ago, And so he scoots off, and we continue to dive, and then it was really cool. The rock dropped off down to like 50 feet, like a big rock ledge, and that was really, really cool, like having a little bit of visibility and just sliding down a rock ledge in the East River, 50 foot,
great,
right off Hell's Gate. And
It's amazing.
yeah,
A bunch of years ago, there was a big rescue right off of City Island where some idiots went out in like a rowboat, like 3 kids.
the 4 kids.
4 kids,
Four kids, yeah.
And
It wasn't
they wound up drowning, right?
Yeah, all four wound up drowning, and the family called me the next morning, and by that time Harbor and Scuba was involved all night and everything.
You
and,
retired already?
I was retired already, and the family wanted me to get involved, and again, as retired guy,
When you're on the job, you're a guest. When you're off the job, you're a pest.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And again, it's under investigation. So it's an active investigation. I can't be on it. I can't do anything with it. But try and tell that to. Trying to explain that to a grieving family, they just didn't understand it. And the same thing would be, a lot of times we'd be on a job and people come over and go, "Hey, I'm a scuba diver. You want some help?" No.
Right, exactly.
I
don't know what your level of skill is. I don't know who you are.
Right, I got it.
But you were a detective, so you're obviously part. What you're doing down there is part of an investigation.
Absolutely.
And when you come up, you have to give your, I guess,
assessment
of what
exactly.
the way you feel this happened.
Right.
And a lot of times you might even be basically telling you what happened in the homicide.
Yeah, and sometimes you have to,
because you could have a witness that's still alive, and they're telling you a different story, but no, that's not the way it
Mike,
happened.
in that situation, it seemed like the family was trying to blame everyone else but the kids' actions for what had occurred. And
No, I don't think they were
correct
trying
me
to
if
blame.
I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, I don't think they were trying to blame. They were frustrated. Just they're really, really frustrated because they want things to happen. And again, you and I know what
investigation
we're looking
doesn't
at,
happen
but
quickly. That's for sure.
It doesn't happen quickly. They got to they got to investigate, and a lot of times, they're looking at the families, saying this is what happened. PD's investigating. These kids run away. They playing something, whatever, So, really, they weren't looking at it really that way. But again, it's, you can't rule everything out. And again, is there, there's 4 kids. Was there a harm? Was there foul play?
Right.
It was just an unfortunate thing that, they got 4 kids that, got involved.
And as I
in a
recall,
real
aviation couldn't find them initially, right? They couldn't find the boat.
Well, it was blowing northwest. I remember the night vividly because I only had to run 10 feet from my car to the front door, and it was so cold. I just remember saying to myself, I remember the nights being on a boat this cold. These nights, man, I don't miss it. I'm glad,
right.
and I feel bad for anybody working on the water out there tonight. So when I got news the next day about what happened, I just, I kind of shook my head and like, holy Christ. And I couldn't believe that they could actually even get as far as they did, with everything, because somebody had to stand in the water to push them off.
Right.
Because the boat was so small with that amount of weight in it, they were aground. There was no way of them stepping into the boat, not be aground, and then push themselves off.
Were they going somewhere, or they just
They were going to go out to Hart Island. And Hart Island is where they bury all the John Does and Jane Does and Potter's Field and stuff like that. And what they were planning to do
drunk?
again, I think there was drugs, alcohol, and other things.
So you're saying you think they got pushed off ashore, and how far was the other island that they wanted to go to?
It's like a quarter mile.
Oh, so it's not far, but
it's not far, but
it was doomed because of the weight inside a small boat.
I can't believe the boat didn't. There was not much room. Like one person in that dinghy, on a night like that, there wasn't.
But you're saying
much
it was
room.
cold, so even if they were intoxicated and you're just doing it for a goof, you could see the island that you're going to float to, and if worst case scenario would just jump out and swim there. It was so cold you wouldn't be able to do that.
You wouldn't. And again, it was so cold. I can't believe they actually, from the time they took the boat off land, they had one of the kids had to go home and get a set of oars, and then they I don't know, they carried the boat like a half a block to the water or something, and again, it was.
You do stupid things when you're drunk and high.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a flash decision either. This was like somebody had to go home and get the oars, like you said. They would think it. They just waited.
Right.
We're going to do it. We're going to do it. We're going to do it.
The rationale, there was no rationale in it, and I think, at the point when one of the kids had called 911, they knew that, this kid had probably at this time maybe snapped out of it a little bit and said,
in trouble,
oh shit, but right after
How many
that,
years ago was this?
I remember
10 years ago.
10 years
maybe
ago.
more. Yeah.
Speaking of stuff like that, like homicides on the water, or investigation takes you into the water. This might sound dumb, but I was fascinated by the Natalie Wood murder.
Right.
Well, her death. And since you're an investigator and you were a scuba guy, what was your feeling on that?
Well, first of all, I don't have enough
What was her
real
husband's name
information. Natalie Wood.
Yeah.
Robert Wagner.
Robert Wagner.
Wagner. Yeah.
And what's his name was on the boat too? The
Christopher
character,
Walken.
Christopher Walken.
Right. Yeah. Without having a lot of inside information and stuff like that, and again, how things were handled, and Hollywood's another thing in itself. I don't have to tell you, a lot of guys got to pass just because of who they were and what.
Yeah, I mean, look, they don't always.
That's a case that's been investigated though. Often, at least 10, 20 times.
When a lot of time goes
people.
by in a case like that, how successful are you going to be?
But I'm just saying, like, as somebody used to dive and stuff like that. What's the first thought in your head? Because you've probably seen a lot of those or investigated a few homicides like that, and
Well-
peeked into a couple of more.
All right. Well, the first thing is, if I remember, they found her floating. Correct?
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Okay.
I read the book too, but I don't remember that part.
Okay, I understand. Again, it's the same thing. It's just things going back that they found her floating. When somebody drowns, okay, they sink. Your air is a natural, like inflation device.
Yeah,
like a balloon or basketball. Try and put your basketball in the water, it pops up.
You sink, and then the gases are going to rise you up.
Well, no, the gases are after the fact when you start decomposing. But if you have 90% of the time, if you have a full breath of air, you'll float or bob at the surface. Not all the and when you exhale, you go down.
Right.
Okay, when people drowned, all right, their lungs are aspirated, all right, exhaled, and they've ingested water. And they've coughed, they choked, so there's no air in their lungs, and they sink, all right. But most of the time, if somebody's been killed, murdered beforehand, they wind up floating. A lot of times they wind up floating unless they weigh them down and stuff. All right. So again, there's a lot of things that you got to kind of think of. They're saying, oh, she must have slipped, fell, hit her head on the swim platform, then fell in, so she was dead, beforehand. So there's a lot of unanswered questions that
It could also just be a lot of alcohol, and maybe she was by herself and slipped and fell in the water. It could have,
anything could have happened. It could have,
out in Montauk about 2 or 3 years ago, this guy was out on his huge yacht, just him and his wife, and his wife fell over. And it wasn't a homicide; it was an accident.
Right.
I don't know if they ever they must have found her eventually, but I just thought that's weird because the water is unforgiving. You fall in the water and there's no one sees you.
Yeah.
The boat just keeps going.
Right.
It always surprises me that people that can't swim go in the water. Like, I would never go in the water. If I couldn't swim, I wouldn't go in the water.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that can't swim.
Especially the ocean or a lake. I would go in a pool where I can control it slightly.
Yeah.
But, speaking of that Staten Island and the
right.
You mentioned earlier the Italians and getting rid of. Well, what about the mafia? You said they used the water poorly.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I mean, they use the water.
Exactly.
But you're saying they use it poorly.
All right. So again, even like Greg's a state trooper. Another one that we did was we had a missing New York State trooper case, and he was shot and killed upstate, put in his car, driven down in New York City, and his car driven into the water.
This was what? No, he was off duty at.
He was on duty. He responded to a call. I believe it was like a family dispute or something, and when he showed up to the door, the husband shot him, dragged him into the house. This is after the fact that we got the story from the wife and one of the guys that was accomplice to putting him in the car and shot him. They rolled him up in a carpet and put him in the trunk of his car and drove him down to New York City. And this was before cell phones, and they got lost. The fellow that was driving the trooper car got lost. Lost his the guy that was going to pick him up, and drive him back, and he sent the car in the water. So they had information that the car went. They sent him in the water. So we were diving for about 2 weeks all around. The 5 boroughs where possibly cars could go in the water. We had no information where, but every area we knew that cars go in the water, we would search in that area. And then during the investigation, they found out the individual that put the car in the water had worked at the sewer treatment plant down off Randall's Island there by Hellgate.
Right.
So we started diving there. And the investigators said to us, they go, oh, by the way, if you come across a 1977 Lincoln Continental with Jersey plates and this number, we suspect this individual killed this guy too and put his car, whatever. So
if you see Jimmy Hoffa down there too, we'll take that.
That was pretty much exactly the same thing.
Are you saying it looks like a parking lot down there?
Yes, and that 1977 Lincoln Continental with the Jersey plates. The first we came across that car, we pulled it up.
Wow!
And the individual's remains were in the trunk with the bullet still in the skull. Wow! And then a little bit further out, we came across the trooper's car, and we pulled it out.
So I wasn't even kidding. That's not even a joke, man.
No,
it's like a parking lot down there.
No, it was. And by this point in the investigation, the individual that shot the trooper was dead. They found him hanging in a tree. Called it a suicide.
Kill someone in law enforcement. It's not good publicity for the mob. Right?
Yeah. I think the mob got him before anybody else. I
always remember the guy who killed that DEA agent, that guy Gus Constable Faraci.
Right.
Remember him?
Yeah.
And he was jacked. He was like a steroid monster.
Right.
And it was the whole city. Every cop in the city had his picture.
Right.
And they wanted him bad.
Right.
And sure enough, the mob got to him first and whacked him.
I remember that. What was that case?
He killed was it Everett Hatcher?
Yeah.
He killed the DEA agent, and it was like, we want this guy bad. His picture, that was when cops could be cops, you know?
Yeah.
They handed his picture, it's dead or alive, this guy's coming in.
Yeah.
And they had a picture of him, and he was like making a muscle pose, you know?
Right, yeah.
He was probably in his cell at Rikers or some upstate facility. Yeah. But sure enough, the mob got to him before the police got him.
Yeah, yep.
Which saves the taxpayers a lot of money.
That name sounds familiar.
Gus Faraci. Constable Gus Faraci. I always remember that guy's name.
Yeah.
It's probably from Staten Island.
It's from Staten Island. Yeah, that's where we recovered the gun in Staten Island. Because they had information.
I'm just picturing going, like, putting the scuba gear down, and you go down there, and it's just nothing but cars. And
Mike, there's actually majors in southern colleges, like in Florida, forensic underwater investigation.
Yeah, they
I mean, how much do you really do of that, though? I mean, we're to have like a college major. It's probably got to be a cool major, right?
Well, yeah, forensics, it's pretty cool and stuff. And there's these other training agencies. They, train, volunteer fire departments. This, that, the other.
Any ships down there? Any ships down there? You see boats down there too?
Oh yeah.
You ever come across like a chest full of gold and
well, I walk in inside.
That's how he opened up his dive shop.
And actually, I walk in inside. I am involved in that. The
Treasure
HMS
diving?
Hustler in
the what?
In Hellgate. The HMS Hustler.
What
It's
is
a
it?
British payroll ship that sunk in.
Oh, so you go down
Hellgate.
there and you dive down there?
We're looking for it.
Oh, you don't know where it is?
We got ideas, but it's been
give me a map. Could you draw us a map?
Yeah,
we're going to publicize it on
we
police.
need a couple of investors.
Tattoo that
we
map on my chest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Here's the map.
Yeah. And so
you still do some high risk type diving then, right?
Yeah, we're I'm slowing down on it a bit, but yeah, we're doing some deep diving.
Because this is a young man's game, diving, I would imagine.
Well, you
right?
get called
for the most part.
Some of the more adventurous, the more challenging dives is a young man's game.
I
and
can
as
see
you
the
get
movie
older,
already. The trailer for the movie is he's on a little boat like this up here, and he's got a beer and he's just fooling around, and next thing you know, he gets that call, "We need you."
Yeah.
So the helicopter lands. He throws on the thing.
I mean, this stuff is fascinating, right? How come Hollywood never did a movie?
We did do a trailer.
Uh-huh.
How come they never did a movie about harbor detectives and scuba
They always
divers?
include them in the movies, but they never really get their
Right.
moment to shine. There's never been like
I've gotten quite a few calls from writers and stuff like that, but I guess it doesn't. It just doesn't.
They can't build the whole story. It's a
know.
part of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
They want to talk to the homicide detective.
Yeah, you got to figure out a way to get some girls in the unit. Are there any female divers?
No.
Why is that?
There was again the physical part is usually what knocks them out, and it's when I tried out for the team, it was 40 guys that tried out, and only 5 made the physical part of it. All right, like I said, that's an area. You know what? You can't jeopardize or
100
really
men
change
will
the...
test today, but only 3 for the Green Beret.
Yeah. But I understand there was a couple of girls that came very, very close. And, you know,
It's not a pretty job, I'll be honest with you. Now that I've heard, obviously it takes, like you said, physically, you have to have a love for the water on top of that. You have to have all this training and comfort underneath another type of environment. It's a different way to... Me, I was always I watched the TV movies, right? And the TV shows and the regular movies, and you'll always see that one scene where all the detectives are walking in the water.
Yeah.
In like their suits.
Right.
I'm like, who's doing that?
Yeah, exactly.
You ever see them wading through like a small lake looking for evidence? I'm like, get the fuck out of
here.
here.
Just buy another pair of shoes.
Really?
I'm going in uniform allowance.
I'm going in there and getting wet. What am I going to do the rest of the day? That's why I'm going sick.
They actually had a great scuba story up here, right near where I live on Route 100. It was a famous case where this lawyer from Chappaqua shot and killed his wife, and he tossed the gun into a lake there. And the state police scuba divers, they smartly dove where they saw the spent shells.
Right.
And if you figure, well, that's where he's going to throw the gun. Sure enough, he threw the gun, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 feet of water.
Yeah.
And they recovered the gun. And that's really, we talk about the smoking gun.
Yeah.
That's why he got convicted.
Yeah. Sometimes even in the lawyers, whatever they are, they're not the smartest either sometimes, you know.
No,
you know. And that's the best part about it. You know, people think, you know, it's thrown in the water. It's gone. It's gone forever, you know. But the lab used to hate us because, you know, we'd be looking for a gun and we'd come up with about 10, you know. And we're like,
guns,
okay, here's 10 more.
A lot of people dumping their guns.
Leave them. We're not interested in them.
So there's nothing but guns and cars down there.
Yeah. Guns, cars, bodies, cars, and guns.
It's unbelievable.
And then there's always that body, the body parts floating up, like in the bags.
Yeah.
They also throw the body part.
Yeah.
They throw it in a plastic bag, throw it in the water, and then they wash up on shore.
All right. Well, yeah. Getting back and talk about body parts. Here's another one that, like you say, you know, the sick, demented stories and practical jokes we play. Is we get a call from the 9-0 detectives. They had a homicide. A drug dealer went bad, and they cut the guy up and put different parts of his body in different burrows. And they still hadn't recovered his right hand.
So you're
and
still
his
looking
head.
for the head?
And the head. So the head, one of the guys involved, they got caught. When they cut his head off, they put it in a plastic bag, and they put it in a box, wrapped the box with duct tape, and they dropped it off the Metropolitan Avenue Bridge over to Newtown Creek. So we're diving, we're looking for it. It's a rainy, overcast day, and boat just like this, just like we're sitting at the table here, and I do 2 dives, and next team goes in, they're doing dives. And while I'm on the inflatable boat looking around, doing a surface search, see if this thing popped, I come across a box, looks like it's got blood on it, duct tape. So I bring it back to the boat for recovery, you know, call Monroe, we got possible recovery of evidence. So we're sitting there, and while we were doing that, one of the guys climbed off the boat, went up the string piece, and went to one of the roach coaches, all right? And he comes back, and he's got a box full of, you know, coffees, donuts, and stuff. And that sick, demented light bulb in my head goes off. And I'm looking at mine, and I'm still sitting in my drive suit, you know, and everything, and I'm taking everything out of the box. The guy's looking at me, and I take my, hands, and I put it around my neck, and I measure up to my neck, and I put my hand on the box. I go, draw that circle. I draw the circle. I take my dive knife, and I cut the circle out and slit the box, and I put the box on my head. So now it looks like my head is in a box. All right, and I go down into the engine room, and I pop that hatch open right there, and I stand up on the engine, and they from the outside now they put the box back on my head, and it looks like a head in a box on a deck of boat. And now they take ketchup and they put it on my face. They put a plastic bag on my head. Now I don't know who the guy was they killed. They were black, Hispanic, whatever. But here we got this head on the deck, all right. And while they're doing all this, putting the plastic bag on, the 9-0 squad shows up.
Oh shit!
All right, And so I'm listening to them, and I have my eyes open just a squint so I could see through my eyelashes. All right, and they're saying to the guy, yeah, we're not a real pretty sight, and they're going, oh, okay. They're like, you want to see it? And the guy, they're like, yeah. So they lift the bag up off my head, like about halfway off my head, and I'm just squinting through my eyes, and there's two detectives standing there, and one of them, big, heavy-set black detective, and he's got this big, fat stogie in his mouth, and he's looking at me like, this head does, like, what? Like, this, what? Like, he's looking, he's got this puzzled look on his face that this does not match, or something like, what is with this? And as he's puffing on his stogie, he's leaning over, and now he's standing on a string piece. The boat's a few feet down, so he's not really getting in. He's looking. As soon as I see he can't bend anymore, I jump, open my eyes, and I scream. I go, he nearly swallowed a cigar. All right, he's clutching his heart. He's falling back. We thought we gave him a heart attack. His partner's rolling around on the ground, and thank God he had the trench coat on and couldn't get to his gun because I don't know. He was trying to figure out, do I clench my heart or reach for my gun? And he couldn't do both at the same time, so he went for the heart.
That's great.
We rattled that. That story went around the world, and this is again way before cell phones. And imagine, like, guys going back, couldn't wait to get back to the squad.
Taking pictures.
They went back to the squad and like, oh, you gotta hear this, and that went through all the squads within a matter of days. And a year later, I had an Australian cop. We were doing a VIP, and he says, I heard this story. I was wondering if it was true. I said, not only is it true, but it was me that did it,
That's great. That's excellent.
I do have a picture of my head in the box.
Cop humor is the best, right? You can
post that up.
Cop humor is the best.
Yeah.
You got that macabre sense of humor.
Wow, man, we did it, man. We that hour went by quick too. I don't even know if it's an hour, but we're getting close to the end here. I'm just trying to think. Is there a lot of money to be made as a scuba diving instructor?
Can you
make a nice living doing that?
It's
Seasonal work?
fun. It's more fun than making the money. You got it's like everything else. People ask me that, and they go,
you have a passion for it. You grew up on the water.
Yeah. Again, people ask me, can you make money? I go, it's like everything else. You got to put the effort in.
Right.
Did your dad get you started with the diving?
No, I just like I said, I lived close to the water. My dad was a fisherman. I like being on boats. My brother was into boats and fishing too, and I just had.
You live in the Bronx?
I live in the Bronx, yeah, and I'm still up in Throgs Neck.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, you're in Throgs Neck?
I'm in Country Club.
Yeah, okay. I'm in Locust Point right now.
All right, yeah. I'm gonna stop by your place in City
Country Club's got the same as Staten Island. A lot of those.
Disappearing acts. People wind up. It's amazing. It's amazing how many people just use the water, like
Keep
literally,
your
like
friends
it's a
close, but your enemies closer.
It's just. They throw everything in there.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because a lot of times when I had the dive gear in the back of my truck, I'd pull up, and there was a gas station I pulled into one day, and I'm fueling up, and the guy at the gas station looks over, he goes, well, "What's that?" I said, "It's a weight belt." Weight belt? I go, "Yeah, I'm a diver. It's what makes me sink." He goes, "You sell those?"
I got some work to do this weekend.
That could come in here. Where do I find those?
Yeah, exactly.
Can I get those online?
Belgian blocks are cheaper.
Sal, get your phone out. Google weight belts.
A Belgian block and a chain is much cheaper.
But and and the same thing. I get that 50-50 thing where a couple comes in, one couple will be like, "Oh, I'll pay you extra, you bring them back," and I get the other one, "How much is it going to cost not to bring them back?"
So, Mike, man, did you have a good time with us?
Oh, we had a ball, It's
right,
good time, it's always good to have a lot of laughs, and
Absolutely.
like I said, the humor, and I don't know if those guys.
I'm amazed at that. We never ever met before, any of us. Right? We haven't met you, but it's.
The only time I ever came across Harbor was on 9/11. They picked us up from a place where I guess you could pick us up on the east side in the 90s.
Yeah.
over there, and they brought us all the way down and around.
To the battery there.
Well, we went to Jersey to Hoboken. They set up a triage center over there for all the people that they thought were going to be injured.
Was the Clanbroth house still open then?
What do you mean?
No, you don't know.
I don't know.
There you go.
No. Hey, today's 9/10. Tomorrow's 9/11.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable that it's 18 years ago.
That we're on this, and I remember we were all lined up like on the back of one of these boats like this, holding on as we went down and around the Horn of Manhattan.
Right.
And then somehow we got to Hoboken, and
you know,
we always one of these boats.
It's always amazing to us the goodwill that was directed towards cops and firemen and first responders in 9/11, as compared to now. These people have forgot what we did for them,
right?
You know, and look, we don't want everyone patting us on the back every day, but don't forget, 343 firemen died that day, 23 N.Y.P.D. and also a bunch, I don't know the exact number of Port Authority, but no one hesitated to go into those buildings.
You guys didn't have to go to too many details, though, right? Like parades and stuff?
No, you get detailed once in a while. You know, some of it was overtime and different
things. What do you do with the tank and the flippers when you're on the foot post?
Yeah, exactly. You kept it close by. But, you know, we also did a lot of... you know, we'd go to a lot of the different shows. We'd do demonstrations, you know. We'd go to different places, do, you know, family day, scuba demonstrations, stuff like that, you know.
See, they never had you guys...
shop again? Before we go, where's your shop? It's on the City Island?
It's City Island, yep. 530 City Island Avenue, Captain Mike's Diving.
Captain Mike's Diving. If anybody's out there and you want to get some lessons, I can't imagine a person I would trust more.
He promoted himself from detective to captain in his private life. You see?
The captain came first.
It's funny though, because when you have a captain, let's say you had a lieutenant come on the boat. Technically, he's your boss, he's a detective, but when he comes on the boat, you're the captain.
We did. That was the weird thing about it, is we had to say over chiefs and everything the final say. You know, and not many of you know a lot of them respected it. Some of them would get a little bit of testy, but you know, again, it also how you portrayed it. Some of the guys used to love to throw that at them, you know, even if you had the final say, you know, don't put it in their face and whatever, but
but a good boss will take a back seat to someone as an expert in what they do. You know,
Bill, any parting words?
It was great to meet Mike. As I said, I'm always amazed, not amazed, but I expect it, but how easily we speak to each other because we have this brotherhood, being a cop, and, you know, and I never met anyone that was a scuba diver or anyone that was in harbor for that matter. And I know, now that I know, and I met you, I know your balls were dipped in butter.
No, we kept that for the lobsters. Come on. And again, we never got to how I got to the scuba team.
That's right.
You know, and
you'll have to come back for another episode.
I guess so. Yeah, there we go.
We're going to extend an invitation on September 21st, which is a Saturday night. We're going to be in Pleasantville. At a place called Lucy's Lounge, and we're going to be doing a podcast there, live one, followed by a comedy show that Bill and I will be performing on, as well as our engineer Andrew, who's a very funny comedian as well. We'd love to have you there.
Unfortunately, the 21st, I already have something. We started a oyster reef restoration project in City Island, and the 21st is actually the first major fundraiser going out to
we'll definitely have you come back on the show.
Yeah, exactly.
This was fascinating, man. I really enjoyed it.
It was, so, like I said.
Thanks so much for your time.
Yeah. You're welcome.
I think our guests are going
to... shout out to Greg Porteus for letting us use Launch 5 to record this. Greg Porteus has his own story. He could probably be a guest one day.
Yeah,
a retired state trooper. He's a huge supporter of police. This boat serves as a Coast Guard auxiliary up and down the Hudson River.
Yeah, it's still in service, right? Every once in a while it goes out.
He's made lots of saves. He saved a lot of people's lives on this river. So.
Well, Greg, thanks for having us on the boat here. And from Police Off the Cuff, Mike, thanks for coming by. Mike Carew.
You're welcome. Yep.
And Bill, once again, I think we did a pretty good job today,
this
right?
was great.
I'm starting to feel the boat a little bit now.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
It's moving a little bit.
Getting seasick?
Yeah, I'm a land guy, man.
Yeah, okay. So what I used to tell people about seasickness, they'd say, what's the best remedy? And I would tell them, you take 2 raw eggs, break them open in a glass, drink them down. You got to bite the yolk when they go down. And then take a teaspoonful of mayonnaise chaser after that.
That's going to make you sick without it.
Make you sick. Look at it, be turning green already.
Oh, man. Just the thought of it. All right. Well, on behalf of Police Off the Cuff, I just want to say thanks for tuning in, and we are end the tour.
All right.
Weapon,